Okay, looks like we're live. So hello, everyone. Welcome to our very first webinar. This one is Building for Scale, how Pion adopted a design system approach in Webflow. And we're gonna get started in a few minutes. So if you still need to grab your tea or coffee, depending where you are in the world, do that now, because we're just getting started in a few moments. We need a little music, like an intro music. Okay, let's see a few people joining still. We got Paul, got Nicole. Welcome, everyone. Brian, hi. Okay, let's get started. So, hi, everyone, and welcome to Building for Scale. So this is a webinar all about scaling in Webflow. My name is Alessia. I'm the co-founder of Code and Wonder, and I'll be your host for this webinar. So a little bit about Code and Wonder before we start. It's a digital agency. We're remote first, but I'm based in London. And we collaborate with marketing teams to help businesses make the most out of their digital assets and grow. And talking of growth, in the next 45 minutes, we're going to unpack how Pion tackled that challenge head on by introducing a design system mindset inside of Webflow, and what that means for speed, brand consistency, and team empowerment. So to do so, I'm not alone. I'll be joined by two brilliant guests, Max from Pion, who's the global head of design and led Pion's digital transformation, and Matt, the product design manager at Webflow. So let me just bring you up here. So welcome to the stream. Max, why don't you kick off with a quick intro about yourself?
Sure. Hi, thanks, Alessia. Hi, everyone. So I'm Max Dunne. I'm the global head of design at Pion, and I head up design across the organization. So that's from product to brand design, to copywriting, to the brand narrative, storytelling, and research as well. And essentially, I'm working to elevate design as a holistic experience within Pion. So we don't just make things look pretty, which is the sort of common trope of the last 25 years, but we design systems and processes and technology and ways of doing things that make you feel good whilst you do them. And that accounts for our student users, as well as our brands who interact with our technology, and our internal colleagues. And a large part of that is where Code and Wonder and Webflow come in. So I'm looking forward to digging into all of that today.
Great. And Matt, tell us about yourself.
Hi, everyone. I'm Matt. I am a part of Webflow's product design team. I'm part of the design pillar of the product. And so what's exciting about that is I really get sort of a firsthand look into how enterprise customers on design ops and design systems teams and brand teams, really build out scalable component systems. And so I'm excited to share things from our perspective. Happy to be here this morning.
Thanks. Great. So thank you both. So just to have a little recap of what we're going to discuss today in our agenda, we're firstly going to hear from Max about why this project came about and the challenges that Pion was facing. We're just going to go into the decision process that we took and what it takes to build a design system. Just looking under the bonnet and see how we structured things for Pion. And finally, we're going to touch upon the results and learning, so how this has impacted the team at Pion. So make sure you stick to the end to hear that. And so, Max, we've been working together for a while now, maybe just nearly a year. And I remember when we first started, you only had a handful of pages that we initially started supporting you, the team at Pion, with design and developing new pages and making small tweaks and just tackling requests as they came in. And then as the site grew, we kind of started suggesting implementing more of a design system to keep things a little bit more structured. It's often easy as you start to have all the pages different and having like the flexibility and add all kind of designs to them. But as the sites grow, it becomes more and more important to keep that consistency. So I'm just curious, what really made you take the shift in starting from, oh, we just need a few pages and let's tackle tasks as they come along, to what made you say, no, we now need a design system? And what are some of the challenges that the team faced?
Yeah, so yeah, it has been a great year or so working with Code and Wonder. It's essentially expansion is the key word, and it's not necessarily expansion of the team. It's actually expansion of what we wanted to do with our B2B website. So we, as a business, have now expanded into verifying multiple consumer groups. So it's not just students anymore. It's first responders, healthcare workers, student parents, first time parents, and all this kind of thing. So we've got so many more avenues open, which means we have more brands interested in our technology, and we have to talk to more brands on their level. Essentially, with that expansion comes problems. So many more tickets come in to the design team for changes on the Webflow platform. There's a lot of complexities when you're planning campaigns as well because of it. This can lead to inconsistent branding. We were seeing that across the board. Resource bottlenecks and appetite for change, even though the appetite for change was actually more positive than anything we had before. It was essentially outpacing our capability to design the changes. All of this sort of stuff also affects morale. So it kind of leads to increased frustration because you can't actually deliver what you want to deliver. So we needed to change our approach essentially to allow greater autonomy for teams to not just feel like they own something, but actually able to own it. And I wanted to create a system where other teams could play and create in the same way as the design team can.
And yeah, I completely see this over and over again with brands that are scaling fast. At first, you go so fast, and then you realize that the structure that you put in place might not, it's actually hindering you in the scale of things. And when you add new campaigns and new pillar pages, and I think at the beginning is also testing the value propositions, which direction you want to go, where your audience is. The website should always be something that scales with you and changes and grows with the business. And often it's seen as a static asset that is just there, just in case people want to visit your site. But actually, it should be used as an asset for the whole team to grow as well. And oftentimes when you're moving so fast, the bottleneck is the development speed, or rather the marketing team not really having the autonomy to make those changes on the site. And we've seen this over and over again. I have a little slide here of what the 4 major problems that we see. And it often is inconsistent design, or rather, if you have a design team, the design team being flooded with all these requests of people asking them, is this page okay? Like, can you approve it? Can you design it? And then after that, it goes into the development process. So usually you have that developer bottleneck that once the design has been approved, it has to be developed, especially with headless CMSs where everything has to be tied together. And just these two creates it just pushes the timeline by so much, instead of the marketing team having that flexibility of building themselves. And what that means is, it leads to slow campaign launches, which, basically slows the whole progress of the business down, and it can actually lead to missed opportunities along the line. So yeah, you're not alone, Max. It's something that we've seen multiple times over and over again. But I'm also curious, Matt, at Webflow, you must have visibility into lots of diverse marketing teams. Is this something that you've always experienced?
Yeah, time to value for pages, updates, and campaigns is like quite long for marketing teams because of exactly those problems. In fact, the median time to value for a launched update is somewhere around 35 days, which is just crazy. It's way too long at the to keep up with the pace that organizations want to move. And it's kind of funny because historically, brand and product teams have been siloed in different parts of the organization, and that really makes consistency a challenge. And design systems matured due to the necessity of the complexity and scale of the product. And so, we see the brand teams and the marketing teams seeing that, oh, we need to keep up. So we see those teams coming closer and closer together, facilitating that people organization, orchestration, and delivering, on the campaigns that they need. The results are kind of exciting to see these teams come together and see these teams mature in an organization, because marketing sites are catching up to what products teams have done for a long time. When you build in systems and think in systems and build in a single environment, you can move faster, and consistency isn't as much of a concern, because you facilitated so much of that collaboration and building into a structured way.
Totally. I was actually looking at some of your case studies from Webflow, and I saw this morning a Forrester research that they conducted, I think, last year. And it said that teams who switched to Webflow decreased their time to market for their content management development by 94%, which I think it's absolutely huge. So anything that, before took weeks, now it might take a day or even a few hours. And I don't know if now it's a good time maybe to show just very quickly one of the pages that you would be able to build with the design system and that the Pion marketing team has built, which is this, the new event, Pion 100. Max, I don't know if you want to quickly touch upon what's coming for this one.
Yeah, so the Pion 100 is a new brand ranking essentially, and we commissioned a huge research report to understand who the top 100 brands are for the youngest Gen Alpha, moving into the sort of Gen Alpha era as well, and we are focusing on who Gen Z say they love versus what they actually spend their money on. So it's a very comprehensive report, and you can see your brand in there, and essentially what Gen Z think of them as well. And this is already launched in the US, and it's launching in January in the UK.
Amazing. And I imagine that before it would take maybe quite a bit of time to review all of the designs and development, and now the team can quickly spin these pages up themselves to launch these campaigns.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it would have taken I almost bang on the 35 days. It would have taken a month, plus it would have taken a lot of brand design resource and an actual developers resource. Like, these are all alien worlds that I'll touch on later on as well.
Great. So Max, staying with you. So we touched upon, the initial challenge that your team faced, and for everyone here on the stream who are not familiar with Pion, do you want to give us a quick overview of how Pion started and how fast you're going?
Yeah, of course. So Pion started life as the Beans Group, which is essentially Student Beans. Student Beans is a world-known student marketplace where you can get discounts on the biggest brands in the world on things that you need. And essentially what we did a couple of years ago was created Pion as we needed to raise our altitude of the brand architecture in the business, because we, as I mentioned earlier, we expanded into different consumer groups, which meant that we couldn't just focus on students, but it's a whole broad range of consumer groups, 10 different ones actually. So raising the altitude of our brand architecture gave us more room to grow and more room to play. So as the Beans Group had previously been the parent company of Student Beans, we now evolved to a branded house model, which has Pion as the hero brand. Student Beans, our marketplace, Beans ID is our verification technology, and YMS is our youth marketing strategy event, which we host in London and New York, which we also built on Webflow as a different microsite. And these are our channels or products. And this change to Pion was about 2 years ago. So in 2 years, we went from a WordPress website, which was had an incredibly confusing sitemap with a bunch of different sub-sites with very specialist knowledge on how to actually change them, locked away with essentially a WordPress developer. There was inconsistent branding, and then we essentially changed from this to a very clean and unified site, which is now accessible by several different teams.
Amazing. Yeah, I remember, like I said, we started with a handful of pages, and now you have hundreds of pages all managed by the team, and actually multiple teams. So you already mentioned that you have all of different teams and sections like within the company. But just to give people an idea of how many people are actually affected by the new site and using the new site, do you want to give us an idea of who's using it?
Yeah, it's a good question. So people who actually log into the site, we have the B2B marketing team, which has several different roles within it. They handle the Pion 100 stuff, the YMS stuff, and a lot of other things besides the blog. And then we have the HR team. So that's also another one of our, I suppose what you say, customers in a way. We have to sort of design for them in mind as well and their needs. So they manage the careers site. Customer support teams look at the self-serve journeys. And then we have the design team, which is product design, brand design, and copywriting, that all go in and design, build, change the font. And that's people who actually just come into the back end as a starter for 10. I mean, then you've got, pretty much the whole business. So we're talking about 250 people actually using the site every day, sharing it with their clients, referring to it in calls and that sort of thing. So the reach is enormous, and it's actually only going to grow.
That's incredible. I can imagine previously it was probably a developer's or designer nightmare if someone told them, oh, it's going to be 200 people touching this and playing around with blocks and pages and creating new things. I feel like any developer would be like, no, please don't, because things might go very wrong. But actually, it's all working quite smoothly, I think.
Exactly.
And you mentioned that you were on WordPress before. What made you pick Webflow specifically, and why did you switch?
Yeah, so Webflow essentially let our marketing teams build and iterate visually. The component and CMS structure kept these hundreds of pages that you reference consistent without reinventing layouts over and over again. Very little oversight from myself, actually, which has been a dream as well. Branching also allows for developer-like standards, but without that fear of not knowing the language or thinking that you might break something. So it's user-friendly on multiple levels. You can get really into the weeds, or you can have fun playing at sort of high level where you're not going to actually you're not going to change any source code. There's also the enterprise governance and security gives us the confidence in the operation side of things, whilst also keeping us very fast. And then it's positioned us ahead of the curve for AI-driven search, where that clean and structured content really plays a big part as well.
Yeah, those are interesting and universal themes. Like we see that pretty much across the board in all of our teams that we work with. Every team is trying to do more with fewer hands off, fewer people orchestrating across these different teams. Planning, creating, delivering an experience or a campaign is is a challenge, and the people aspect of it, when they're siloed, it really slows that down, introduces quite a bit of friction. And what I love about Webflow so much is that it lets you be more self-service. You don't sacrifice consistency, and you can scale very quickly.
Amazing. Yeah, I feel I agree with everything that you just said, both of you. Okay, so we covered the challenges you face, the requirements for your team, and why you picked Webflow. Now maybe let's shift our attention on how we actually put the design system together. And let me go in here. So when we first started working together, you had a very nice brand guideline with all your brand assets, typography, logo, and all the different 3D icons and assets that you have as part of your brand. But I feel like it was more tailored for print rather than something that could easily be translated to the web. So the first thing that we started with was by creating a set of reusable components and styles and rules in Figma that kept a brand consistency across every page. And once we did that, we could identify patterns and components that we needed to translate into a system in Webflow. So how we did that. So let me just move through here. So having all these modular components, I feel like there's two ways that can be done in Webflow. One is what we often call closed components. So these are specific patterns and specific layouts, like you can see in the bottom half of these two examples, which the marketing team, like yourself, Max, and everyone within your team can drag and drop and have all these reusable components. However, we still wanted the flexibility of having, the creativity to flow. You mentioned you have a whole design team, so we want to give them the power to create different layouts, which are not necessarily stuck in place. So what we created is basically a componentized system where you have different layouts with variables and what you could call maybe an atomic system, where you have those layouts and then you have these elements that you can insert into these layouts to create whatever pattern you'd like it to be. So it's kind of the best of both worlds, where you have, a drag and drop easy system for you to add a hero, features, a marquee, and all of these which are set in place and already approved by the design team. So like you said, it skips all of the design revisions and it has very little overseeing from yourself, and allows the team to build pages quickly. But at the same time, for people who are a little bit maybe more technical, maybe more familiar with Webflow and the limits that you can push the brand, you also have all of those what we call open components, where you can slot things inside of each other and create new layouts and patterns that can then be used across the site. And that is all tied together by rules, which in Webflow would be the variables. So making sure that all of the font sizing is consistent, and patterns and spacing and all of those things that need to stay consistent. So we set all of that up for you. So you can see all the typography on the top left corner and all those kind of atomic component on the top right. So those can span from things that you use regularly, such as buttons and call to actions and images, all the way to something a bit more abstract, like those 3D assets that you have there. And putting that all together, creating these layouts that you can drag and drop and have the flexibility to build pages super quickly. And that's just to iterate that, you have different school of thoughts, and you have certain Webflow developers who pick one of these two. So it's either all full open components and full flexibility, or all closed components. And actually, there is the flexibility of having both. And it all depends by the team that you're working with. So if maybe you have a smaller team, less technical, then you might want to create more closed components and something that they can drag and drop. Well, if you have a huge team like Pion, that you need basically all of the span from the less technical all the way to the technical people, you can have the full variety. And the ones that you pick, it's mainly down to how the team works and just tailoring to their needs and making sure that what we create is actually something that can be used by the team in the best way. So moving on to that, Max, how's the team using the new system and how is it going?
Yeah, it is going very well, thanks. So the B2B marketing team are using it to create things like sector hubs, which are collections specific to sectors like food and drink. And this allows them to hit their marketing schedules and their campaign deadlines really quickly. And they also have use cases, and they manage the blog. The blog is incredibly flexible. I have a soft spot for the blog because it's the way we built it is you can do so much with it, basically. And then we also have, as part of the B2B marketing team, we have a team that looks at member stack and Stripe integrations as well in our self-serve journey. So you can also add this sort of technical complexity to it as well. So they also now have the ownership of stuff that usually really would have required a developer. So that's really exciting. They also can create things like the Pion 100 page, as we saw earlier, using these component blocks, not going too far into the weeds of actually choosing colors and stuff. It's all there for them, as well as the YMS site as well. And then as for me and my team, I'm now able to create collections, tweak components, and by understanding how the system works actually allows me to know exactly how to iterate on it, and to get under the hood with product design helping me out on that as well. So that's been really interesting, actually, is helping me a lot. And I think my favorite aspect of all of this is just how flexible it is, as you mentioned earlier, Alessia. You can go really spicy with Webflow, as you can see in some of their marketing, like the different websites you can make. They're absolutely unbelievable, if your brand permits it, obviously. And I think actually the guardrails build a lot of confidence and can actually expand creativity. And if you think of a playground or an actual sandbox, every single sandbox has sides that keeps the sand in, and you can still have lots of fun within that sandbox. That's kind of how I see it.
I love that. I love that analogy. Yeah, because when I talk to other designers, there's always, I find it a bit of a myth that says, oh, but design system put too many constraints and then every page becomes really boring and it's all the same. But actually, I mean, they just need to go on the Pion site. It can be all very different, but within those guardrails that you mentioned, and actually having those, knowing that you can't go wrong, basically, because the colors are there, the spacing is there, and everything is there, it actually gives you more empowerment to try new things, because you know that everything will still be on brand, and it allows you to try new things. Matt, what is your view on design system? Are you one that says everything is too constrained, or actually it empowers flexibility? I don't know.
I share both of your sentiments. I think it actually does empower flexibility. It's funny. I think that there's a lot of that impression of, design systems being rigid or constraining on your creativity, because back when design systems weren't as sophisticated as they are now, you could either build things organically and really be flexible and creative, but that doesn't scale. Ultimately, you need to get into a structured system that can actually scale and be consistent. It breaks down as things grow. So, ideally, you want to be able to have a system where you can be playful and creative, but flexible guardrails, like Max and you mentioned, are what keep brands consistent. And me as a designer, I feel quite empowered, like you said, knowing that I'm not going off brand. Like, I can be creative. It opens up a little bit of my creativities, because those guardrails are in place. The design system is sophisticated enough, and it's been built to scale, and it actually saves so much time that that it's easy to abandon this sort of the older notion of wanting infinite flexibility.
Amazing, yeah. And I mean, Max, you already mentioned a few of the benefits of using a design system, but would you want to maybe elaborate a bit more on what changed for you and the team?
Yeah, absolutely. So touching on the creation and launch of the campaign pages, they can essentially do that in a day now with little to no design support. Historically, this would have needed to be briefed in maybe 4 weeks ahead of schedule, a kickoff call, 2 rounds of feedback, maybe 3, depending on the complexity and the importance of it, push live by a developer, with any updates also needing to be briefed in. So this is a really process over people kind of system. And essentially, with the access in templates in Webflow now, the team are able to take a concept to go live in 24 hours. So it really is that sort of 90, I can't think it was 92 or 93% efficiency savings that you mentioned earlier, Alessia. So yeah, a 24-hour turnaround for a campaign is absolutely unbelievable. The brand designers and copywriters are now upskilling. So Webflow essentially turns designers into superheroes. Essentially, you can go from the first sketch of a Crazy 8 all the way to launching something live, creating real tangible brand value. That's a KPI that you can own, and KPI ownership for designers has always been something that's quite hard to do as well. So that's also a really good thing for brand and copywriters. The product design or design actually now own the B2B marketing site. So this is something that's always been a bit patchy. Do marketing own it? Do developers own it? Does product own it? But design now owns the marketing site. So that gives marketing the benefits of design thinking that they never had before. And I think Matt touched on it earlier, that the marketing side never got that sort of design thinking, product love previously, and Webflow has allowed us to shift onto that as well. And in essence, looping it back to my point about low morale has increased. So the more autonomy, the more ownership, the more creativity people have, there's so much more happiness and fun in what we're doing. There's less bottlenecks, and which means the team can create what they want within the flexibility of the system that you built, Alessia.
And I mean, you mentioned that everyone is basically upskilling. So the design team has more of a development overseeing, and then the development team is like the product team has that design thinking. So I guess it's not just a one-way stream, but everyone is learning something new, which is pretty amazing.
Exactly.
And Matt, are you seeing any trends in companies adopting design systems?
Yeah, as I mentioned earlier, those different teams sort of working in silos. One trend, they're moving closer and closer together. for the benefits of consistency and scale. And really what's exciting about that is that when a strong component or design system, actually a component system or design system actually exists, marketer adoption and usage jumps considerably. And so it that path to value that I mentioned earlier, around 35 days or so, really shortens it. So brands and marketing and product design systems, they're all really being thought of as a single system, which, and then having things be accelerated with the foundations of a design system, that value for marketers is really quick. And ultimately, designers want simpler tool chains as well. They don't want to sacrifice creativity in building and evolving these systems. So being able to provide that time to value in an environment that, Matt, to your point, makes your designer a hero, really does lead to the success of the organization, and allows them to scale and stay consistent. And I would echo the sentiment, increase morale as well.
I mean, happy team, happy product, right? That's
Yeah.
is that the saying? Probably not, but we're gonna make it one. Great. So we are now kind of reaching towards the end of the session. We have less than 10 minutes. So if anyone who's watching live has any questions, we might or might not have time to answer them. But if you want to pop them in the chat, we can see if we have time to get to them. But moving on, probably, to any closing remarks, anything, Max, that you want to tell us about what's next for Pion, and maybe leave us with one lesson that you want to share for other teams that want to adopt design systems as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for setting this up, by the way. I've had a really good time. So next up, we're looking to solidify the B2B site as our main sales asset. So that will be the home for our unified message. And as I mentioned before, that means the whole sales team is going to be using this every day. So it's going to get even more exposure around the business. And we are also going to be looking at AI creation within Webflow. That's a really interesting thing. That means that design systems are crucial for that. So it's really strict, essentially, what the AI can do, as well as improving our AI SEO ranking. So we're going to be looking to the AEO space as well. We are also looking to design a design at Pion, or a pion.design sort of studio site as well, where we're going to host our tone of voice, our brand assets, our brand story, that sort of thing. So that will also be sent to brands, and that's going to be a separate microsite for us. The upskilling will continue for the designers. That's a really interesting one. And then I think the lesson is that there is a learning curve with this stuff, and we spent a good chunk of time building out this design system. So there's that cliche of moving slow to move fast, which is probably a cliche for a reason. It's probably because it's true. But we did spend a really good chunk of time doing the design system. And it is quite a hard sell up into the exec suite to say that we're spending money on doing this thing that you can't really see yet, and it's having no tangible value yet. But in basically 1 month, 6 weeks of using this thing, we've gone like that, and we've gone vertical in our speed, literally overnight. So
it's the hockey stick graph.
Yeah, exactly. So it's totally worth it. My lesson is that it's a difficult sell. You have to have a consistent story along the whole journey to make sure the value is not lost as you're building it out. And then also, it's not just a third-party plugin. Webflow is not just a thing that you bring in to try, in my opinion. It's a company-changing tool as fundamental as Figma or Salesforce. It should be given a real stress test and a real conversation with the stakeholders that matter, so that it's rolled out properly and used properly.
I mean, you mentioned that you're onboarding the sales team onto Webflow as well, which I feel like it's maybe unheard of, but that the sales team gets involved in the development and creation of the site itself. But I feel like it's crucial, right? Because the site should be a tool for you to sell and to reach your audience. So I don't see why the sales team shouldn't be involved as well, but that's just adds to just to see the scale that Webflow can have within your organization. And like you mentioned, Max, it's a way of working or a tool that can be used on multiple levels and multiple touch points rather than, oh, it's just a brochure site.
Yeah, exactly. Well, just really quickly on the sales front is that the system that they use also needs to be as flexible as the conversations they're having with the brands that they own or that they're the account managers of. So that their assets change, their conversations change, the brands need change. So yeah, they need to be flexible too.
Amazing. And Matt, do you have any final thoughts?
Yeah, just to key off of that, collaboration is everything. Just love seeing partners like Code and Wander partner with Pion and Webflow to see what's possible and push what's possible. The story proves that design systems are really where brand creativity meets scale for teams. So it's exciting to see that, and it's exciting to see how the best systems really emerge when design, marketing, engineering, all those groups work very closely together. They co-own it. They break down silos. We have additional features like localization and AI assist that will help you generate and operate at scale. But those teams working together on a solid design system foundation gets everyone working in concert, and regardless of the use case that you're using, you can deliver consistent experiences to your customers and consumers.
Exactly. Amazing. So let's see how we're doing for time. We have like 3 minutes left, so not much time. We may have time just for one question. So I see here, Liam asked, how long does it typically take to build a design system driven Webflow site? I mean, that very much depends. In my opinion, it might take, Max, I think we took roughly 6 months to set it all up properly. But we're also talking a 100 pages website. So it really depends how big the team is and what your requirements are, because it could go anywhere between 3 months to a year to set it all up. And I also feel like design systems are never necessarily done. Max, you have a whole team and you're iterating on it, kind of like giving the foundation and then building on top of it. Depending how technical your team is and how much they can iterate themselves once you have that foundation. It might be an always ongoing work that the brand team together with the development team and the sales team and everyone just work together to build on top of it. So I know this is probably not the answer that you're looking for, and it's a very vague one. But I'd say between like 5 to 8 months. And like Max said, it's something that takes quite a bit of time up front to set it all up, but it's that hockey stick. So it, takes a bit of time, but then once it's there, it can accelerate things quite a bit. I don't know if any of you want to add anything to that, but
just really quickly, is we're actually already looking to iterate on the system. So there's as people use it, there's things that it's clear that we don't have certain components and stuff like that. So that idea of building on the system is totally valid, and it's not stifling our creativity at all. You just recognize something that's not in there, so then you design it and put it in there. So but I would also say that even if you're building a small site, building with a system up front is going to be so much more beneficial than doing it after the fact.
Yes, it's also, I guess, easier to set it all up front versus try to retrofit all the components and design system. We have one last minute and one more question came in just super quickly. This is maybe not components related, but any go-to Webflow for Dummies training resources that you recommend? There is lots of channels out there, I feel like, that offer resources and training on how to use Webflow. Webflow themselves, they have the university, which is incredible, I find. The amount of resources that you put out is just never ending in a way. Maybe touch upon, you have the Webflow Way guide, which I also got involved to help out just defining the best practices and best way of working in Webflow. And I feel like I need to give a shout out to Timothy Ricks, because his channel is always flowing with ideas and tips and tricks. So make sure you check him out. And yeah, thanks, Matt, for sharing the link as well in the chat of the Webflow Way. Great. Well, thank you so much both for joining me, and I loved our conversation. And yeah, lots of food for thoughts in design system way. And yeah, like I said, it's always best to set a design system up front and build on top of it. So if you're ever looking to create a design system, feel free to get in touch. Happy to give advice. You can go on our website, codeandwonder.com, and reach out from there. Thank you so much, everyone, and see you soon.